My dad worked hard all of his life, 6 days a week in the rubber and plastics industry. He was a mechanic. And he provided for my mom and for 7 kids. And then he retired, and he thought he'd have this, you know, fairly decent retirement. He didn't have a pension, but he had Social Security, and he'd put away a little bit of money. And then along came some dementia and what turned out to be Alzheimer's. And so instead of this retirement with his grandkids, he ended up wondering what was going to happen to him. Of course, because he'd been so great to us, the 7 kids said, well, we want you in our life. So one of my brothers, my younger brother, decided to keep my dad at home and be a primary caretaker, and we all worked to spell him on weekends, so because being a primary caretaker is so hard on a family. And in a lot of ways, you know, it was somewhat traditional in that we wanted to keep him in the family, but it was somewhat non-traditional because my brother worked. I mean, he had a business to run here in Santa Ana. And so we really searched a way where we could still do what we wanted to, which was to be able to interact with our dad, even though all of us are really busy. I mean, my dad has 2 Congresswomen in the family. So I really just see him on the weekends. But during the week, you know, everybody's working. So adult daycare was just wonderful. I mean, it was really a solution for what we were seeking to do, which was not to just keep my dad in the traditional way of, as we say in Espanol, in Spanish, en un rincón, in the corner, just waiting for someone to get home. We wanted him to have interaction. We wanted him to talk to other people. We wanted him to be stimulated, to be physically fit, because you have to be physically fit in order to be mentally fit, and you have to be more mentally fit so that you can be physically fit. You know, it all comes together. And it provided that. And what we found out the most about it was that he wanted to be with people who were still active. He didn't want to be put aside in a corner. And he didn't want to go to a rest home where, you know, people would just sleep most of the day, quite frankly. So this was perfect because it made him interact with the world. For our family, it meant that my dad would still be part of our family on a day-to-day basis. But it also gave us the security that he wasn't sitting at home, and as would happen with Alzheimer's, after some stages, you start to break out and you go wandering around and you can't find your father and you've got to call the police and you're worried about what's happening. In the case of my dad, for example, we found him one day, 20 minutes later we found him like 2 miles away from the home. So it's really security in a sense, because you know that when you go to work and you have to concentrate on work, you actually have very skilled people taking care of Dad, worrying, you know, helping with the health issues, with the physical issues, providing stimulation, even if it's bingo or playing cards or dominoes, just making his mind move so that he doesn't just freeze up and become, you know, just a little blob in the corner. I mean, that's not what we wanted. So for us, like a program like this allowed us to have our dad for an even longer time before he would completely forget about us and we had to do something else with him. It really stretched out the time in which we could have a meaningful relationship with our dad. And for me in particular, it helped me to be able to settle everything that I needed to settle with my dad, because, you know, there'd be some bad days, but mostly there were good days, and those I think that these programs allowed him to continue to have more of those good days. So we could talk, we could settle any differences we had, we could just enjoy each other as people, because, you know, because I knew at some point I would lose him. You know, people have very few choices. First of all, there's very little information. One of the great things about having a resource like this program is that you actually have information about, you know, new trials going on about physical fitness, what they can do. You know, so many people are afraid that once people shut down, that there's no way to bring them back into physical well-being. You know, what you learn is that the more you work at it, the better you become, the less falls you're going to have, the more you're going to be able to walk, the more you're going to be able to do things for yourself. So that, you know, that's lost on people. every family will face what my family faced, which is, you know, it's almost like being a sandwich family. You're trying to take care of young, you're trying to do your things in very difficult economic times, and then you've got your parents to worry about. What do you do with them, and how do you treat them, and how do you just not forget about them? And for us, it was really godsend to have a program where we could get information, where we knew Dad was doing well, and where we knew that his quality of life was significantly higher than what we could provide him if we just kept him shut in the home.